Hello, everybody. Another day, another episode. Factorio. You are listening to Sam Serious. This is pretty much what I've expanded on with Aquilo. This was not my original iteration of Aquilo that I was expanding on, mostly because of a technical difficulty that I did not think about in advance. So, when I was transitioning to Aquilo, I had some mild TPS issues and some issues with Novice that I figured was a TPS issue with the nuclear reactor there. So I wound up turning off autosave, this way I don't wind up getting a series of saves that would brick the game. But I did not think about the fact that I should have created a backup save the moment that the issue started. So, pretty much 20 hours later, something happened to the save file of the original Space Age run that led to its corruption to the point where literally all the data in the archive file that the Factorio worlds are stored in got erased. Luckily, the game will autosave for every planetary visit that you do, so that saved the series. The moral of the story, if you're turning off backups that autosave for troubleshooting reasons, create a backup save before you turn it off, and when you're done troubleshooting your issues, turn it back on. Don't do me and almost lose a playthrough. So that's that. Now y'all are probably noticing that my voice is sounding a lot better. I figured out how to use noise cancellation and noise gate. This way I'm not, one, picking up sounds of my devices, and two, I'm not, blaring out any weirdness, unnecessary sounds, or being overly loud on y'all, so hopefully things will work. You also may notice that the screen resolution of this video is dramatically different. That is because I'm operating at a different screen resolution. I was able to assemble a new computer that is more suited to be able to do video rendering and stuff compared to how I was doing with my laptop previously. Now, you may see me still do some video rendering on a laptop every now and then. You may see some screen differences with that, but that's going to be a extremely rare case depending on what's going on with my life. So my schedule varies too much due to things I gotta do. So when life throws its curveballs, figure out a way to overcome and prioritize. Anyhow, back to this here. So with this monstrosity of a computer, I was able to render this video on Aquilo. So I've pretty much gotten the basics of Aquilo figured out. I pretty much got it up to a point where I'm able to send cryogenic science up to space now. So that's how far I was able to progress on Aquilo. I was admittingly procrastinating. However, I was procrastinating productively. So, with me losing 20 hours worth of Factorio work, I've didn't want to touch Space Age for a while with my main world. But I've decided to be productively building blueprints. So I pretty much made blueprints pretty much exclusive to each of the planets except for Novice. Novice I can manage somehow, but yep, I got my own custom blueprints of all the production arrays that I've been working on. Bulgora has multiple blueprints due to quality, since that's my quality planet, but yeah, I created a bunch of blueprints for specific casino modules and all. And Volcanus has its own sets of production for specific resources, as well as advanced production arrays for other stuff too as well. So, as well as a bit of a modernized touch with what I was able to unlock. So this is like a mid-game, end-game kind of blueprint sets. So here's what I did with Aquilo when I started on the planet. So I landed, and the first priority was to create a heat system. Now, in retrospect, I could have gotten away with just directly attaching heat towers to the cargo landing pad and pull from fuel there without having to generate electricity, but I took the hard route to start plopping down the solid fuel production for chemical plants and all to produce the fuel. So I wound up plopping down a bunch of solar panels to get all the machines producing their resources at a trickle to generate the heat necessary to heat up the pipes to 1,000 degrees. So basically, with the heat pipes, was able to generate enough heat to eventually where all the heat would reach the heat exchangers, with water already made available to the heat exchangers through time, while at the same time sinking any excessive ice that gets produced. I was able to sink ice by making ice platforms with ammonia, but that's another topic in the near minutes. But yeah, but once I've gotten all the steam turbines running to take over our power grid, pretty much the solar panels are no longer needed, especially considering the fact that they hardly produce any power. If I remember right, on Aquilo, they only produce like 1% of power of what they can do. I'm still having them there just in case if things fail, don't quite go as expected, but at least there's no still there supplying power to the base, despite how little they offer. But yeah, once I get the basic power infrastructure set up, I started adding more of the heating towers, routing all the pipes around. One of the big challenges with Aquilo is being able to supply logistics to the machines and keep them heated. This way they're not being stalled out by any thawing due to the lack of heat from the pipes. The pipes have to be pretty much adjacent to the machines, one tile completely around it. So that requires like a different approach to how to effective layout of heat pipes and how to supply your inserted stuff onto them. Pretty much everything freezes except for a few things I've noticed so far. I know that the solar panels don't freeze, heating towers don't freeze, burner inserters, they don't freeze. What's nice about these is that they don't demand electricity, and they can sustain themselves without freezing over. So, even though they're the least efficient burner with how much they burn and their speed, they're still surprisingly handy with this plant, just based on the fact they can operate in the cold regardless of temperature. So. And I can tie them to read the temperature from the heating towers, which in my case, T less than 975 degrees Celsius is my temperature I choose for this. Anything above that, these inserters will not insert. They will do their thing regardless on what I do, and keep the heat going without the need of electricity. So I slowly expanded out. I'm noticing that as I was generating ammonia for the ammonia fuel, solid fuel, that that's very easy to get a buildup of ice, even trying to use ice to generate power that way. So I wound up creating a production array to create a large amount of ice platforms with ammonia and ice. And I pretty much trying to conserve power at the beginning, and still am trying to do so right now. I am using quality efficiency modules. One, to make them more efficient, and two, to null out any power demands for the speed modules. So that's pretty much how I'm sinking all the ice, and any remaining stragglers getting recycled to oblivion. This is mainly primary to have a big buildup of heat, though I kind of feel that this array is a bit of a waste with how much heat's being consolidated here. But that's me experimenting. So I pretty much have a unique power approach that I never thought I would have to use, but I have to use a safety power switch. This is my failsafe to keep Aquilo from shutting itself down due to a brownout and eventually burn out in heat. What I mean, well, burn out in heat. What I mean is, it's possible for the whole base to completely black out and lose all the heat. I almost had that happen to me. So I created a failsafe with the accumulators to pretty much divide the power grid into two grids that interact with each other through the switch. I got the power grid, which is the main priority grid to generate power and heat with, which includes all of the heating towers, turbines, chemical plants for water, and the solar panels. I'm having them isolated in their own grid. And then I've got the production power grid, which pretty much produces all the lithium, platform science, pretty much non-power essential resources, as well as the logistics network. I'll get to why I'm choosing to route things through the logistic network instead later on. So, the idea is that the power grid has a localized energy cache that, should the accumulator deviate down below a certain threshold, 20% in this case, this AND condition will lose its true condition to output both outputs here. This electricity symbol here is pretty much sending a signal to the power switch whenever that is not equal 1, which will be when the desired combinator loses its true condition. Will open up, isolating the heating power grid, so that way the power grid can concentrate its power to keep it sustained and regenerate all the accumulators. This way, they'll always have heat and energy being produced without browning itself out. And this will shut off at 20% threshold, which is more than enough to ensure that no brownouts happen with any of the grids. It's just that the outer power grids will get cut power, so they will have to stop ceasing production until the accumulators charge up to 80%. Which is an OR condition, since OR will go either OR with the AND or its 80% condition. So once the 80% condition gets met, it will gain the true status and close that switch when that switch receives its electricity signal. And it will alternate back and forth into the open and closed state based on the accumulator charge. So that's the SR latch that I'm using to safeguard Aquilo from a cold blackout. That's well, just call it cold blackout. So, yeah, it's pretty much the safe thing. And I've isolated all the power poles, mostly using small poles and electrical poles to power the machines for the power generation. Also, that way, not having as many substations intermixed with the poles due to cable range differences. And for the most part, that works. Now, I mentioned that I have the Roboport strictly on the production power grid. When I was troubleshooting the blackout, I was barely producing enough water to have a little bit of water going into a hot enough heat exchanger just to make the turbines generate a burst of full power for a few seconds before it just turns off, before it just blacks everything out again with the solar panels I'm trying to use to jumpstart the overall system with. That's because the Roboports have a large internal energy buffer. The problem is that the turbines are redirecting all the power to the Roboport energy buffers rather than to all the other machines to keep themselves sustained. Because of that, the Roboport is low priority for power production. And should I ever run out of the blackout and stuff and still have the heating towers starting from the space platform, logistics platform, will be generating enough heat for its first set of turbines to sustain all the other, power all the other systems that are thawed enough to do their thing. Ever since that incident with the blackout that I had this again, and this failsafe has saved this factory from another blackout before. Hence why I wound up creating additional turbines in this location and more turbines here. And I will need to plop down more as more of my production structure of within the production power grid have more productivity modules installed into them. Plus, too, on Aquilo, their logistics network, if I remember right, is 5 times more energy demanding than normal, if I remember right. Let me confirm that real quick. Yeah, robot energy usage 5x. So these robots are way more power hungry than what they were before. We'll have to add more Roboports, though, which is going to really eat at power. But yep. This is pretty much a quilt I'm having set up with now. I'll just go over to what the, actually, before I do that with I want to go over the, ice sink. So I found it's very easy to overproduce ice with the, ammonia production alone for the power system all. So what I'm doing is that I'm having the ice getting converted into water and then proceeding to get and this is a very important one, being sunken into a bunch of assembly machines for ice platform productions. Those require ice and ammonia to produce. And I've created my own specialized blueprints for certain inserters will only apply excessive ice should chemical plants run out. These chemical plants produce more ammonia than what they do ice, so they do require a supplemental system to keep the ice platform production going. But I'm also having some of that ice go into cryogenic research. This cryogenic research requires ice, lithium plates, and fluoroketone. I might be mispronouncing the name of that fluid, but it is what it is. I don't know the pronunciation of these names, but yeah. So this here is my first ray of lithium that I've slapped down. It's producing raw lithium for science production, as well as producing lithium plates. This requires holmium from Fulgora to make, so you will have to export resources from other planets into Aquilo, since Aquilo doesn't even have the basic metals and stuff that other planets give you the means of having. The only familiar resource is crude oil. Primary source is supplying solid fuels to all the burners here. Yeah, the three resources, all the resources Aquilo offers is ammonia from the ammonia solution oceans, lithium brine, and I want to say fluorine. Yeah, fluorine. Those are pretty much the three. Those are pretty much all the resources. Oh, and ice from the ocean. But those are pretty much the resources that Aquilo has to offer on its own. The rest you have to import from your planet exports. And I did have to create more infrastructure because of that, which I'll get on to later on. But yeah, that's what it's lithium producing for the plates and science. Then I'm also having another lithium ray being pretty much doing very little work right now due to hot fluoroketone. This is necessary to produce fluoroketone. This is another blueprint I've designed. A hot fluoroketone will then go into the storage tank, but with a pump restricting this tank to store 20,000 hot fluoroketone from the production array. I left that extra 5,000 fluid space alone for a reason. And that's because there's machines that uses fluoroketone that will output hot fluoroketone. And I don't want the hot fluoroketone to cause a bottleneck, so I'm reserving extra space for all these machines to output fluoroketone too, to efficiently recycle the hot fluoroketone, to keep it from going to waste, and to stop any backlogging that would cease production. And all that would then get reprocessed back into these cryogenic plants for cooled fluoroketone. And I'm using this for the cryogenic science, as well as, and this is an important one, foundations, which are pretty expensive, very expensive actually. 20 stone, 4 tungsten, 4 carbon fiber, 4 lithium plates, and 24 ketone. This recipe for foundations is quite costly. But considering the benefit it has for certain plants like Fulgora and Volcanus, it's a must. I'm not so worried about Volcanus right now. There's plenty of real estate there, despite the occasional lava patches. Fulgora? If you're talking about easy real estate, forget about it. This is enough, though. I'm being bottlenecked by stone because this eats stone up pretty fast, and I'm exporting stone from Volcanus to this plant here, but it'll definitely be supplementing Aquilo for foundation production, and I'm mostly having all the foundations being redirected to Fulgora. I'll get to that in a few minutes. I am able to produce rocket fuel out of the oil and ammonia. I need some solid fuel, water, and some ammonia, and I'm producing enough rocket fuel to sustain all 12 of these rocket silos. They're normal quality for the most part. A few of them are, or is it just one that is uncommon? Point is, it's enough to be able to get the basic rocket logistics going, and then I'm importing the exported circuits and LDS into them. So that's pretty much my space logistics system set up now for science and foundations for the moment. And I can see myself making all the quantum CPUs. Is it quantum CPUs? Quantum processors to make exclusive products with. I'm especially drooling over the idea of the fusion reactors here. The idea of fusion reactor producing so much power from it is definitely will be appealing, an appealing addition to Aquilo. I don't have much in regards to biters for novice setup yet, so this has been a low priority because I just have no means of producing captive biter spawners because those require fluoroketone, so that is a Aquilo required tech. That's why I've put biter captivity at a afterburner right now. I did at least got the railguns. I'm not worried about the railgun research because I'm not using it yet. I'd much rather be reserving all my cryogenic research for just acquiring the Aquilo tech and for rocket productivity. That's another reason why I wanted to go to Aquilo. Sorry if I boomed the mic. I moved too close to it. Anyhow, rocket productivity basically allows me to save resources by reducing. I mean, you're still requiring the same amount of resources per time to produce rocket parts, but you produce more rocket parts per unit of resource with rocket part productivity. Like, pretty much the same deal as productivity bonuses in general. So I'm able to produce more rockets more cheaply, faster. That there will be very important for Aquilo, considering its dependencies on other planets. It will also be very important for Novice as my central heart for research in space logistics. Novice is my ship's lifeline to operate. So this is a big win for throughput speed and resource efficiency. And I'm going to be doing this all the way till I get a 100% productivity bonus. This way, what's normally costing 1 rocket to build will provide 2 rockets to be sent up. So it will be a costly research, though. So in the meantime, I'm slowly producing platforms to expand my base here. Over time, I'll be generating more real estate and claiming islands. Like, I'm actually wanting to expand off this oil field. Maybe 1,000%, but this is free fuel and heat source. And I can expand massively on here. I can do the same once I reach that island. Ooh. Lithium, lithium brine, lithium brine. And there's a few fluorine brines down here. Ooh, it's another oil field. I can generate another heat system without having to route so much fluids around here. What I'll probably do is create like a train network, though, to where all these trains will be going to various major heat point of interest to make sure that all of the heating systems are able to produce all the solid fuel necessary to keep everything sustained, especially as the starter field is within the last hour went down by 50%. Yeah, I don't want to be too slow on Aquilo despite the good advancements I'm having here. And I'm having these constantly put fuel in regardless of temperature settings. I disconnected all the burner inserters just for the sake of getting ice throughput going, because it's possible to have temperature be a source of bottleneck for the ice and stall out the power grid that way. But yeah, that's pretty much my general approach. Land on Aquilo, get the heat going, trickle in the power from the solar panels to get water to really ramp up energy production on Steam, and then start sinking ice into platforms, create more real estate, expand your production from that new real estate. That's pretty much the starting strategy that I found to be working with Aquilo. And I will be expanding infrastructure for foundations in the future. I'll get a hold to why soon. So now, I'm going to go speak about Fulgora. You can already see what I'm doing. But my most areas of concern are the zones that are destroying my logistic bots. This is a big one where I was losing a lot of logistic bots due to lightning zones, due to lack of lightning rod coverage. And right around here is another dead zone for lightning rod dead zone that's causing things to get lost. So that's pretty much created. So for now, I'm using foundations to unify all of the island's logistic networks and power grids into one. Doing this should allow me to pretty much have every island work with each other equally. Park this tank right here, with it being the only tank making requests, so that way it gets all of the foundations and lightning rods, so I can use that tank to build certain areas at priority versus using a large logistics network that is randomly placing things around. That's pretty much how I'm expanding my grid with certain prioritized locations right now. But yeah, I've rehauled Fulgora again. I'm going for a different way of syncing things. The other way I was doing it was a little too messy. So I'm having a bunch of arrays of recyclers read off of circuit modules that are reading off of the contents that the roboport is sending the information to the combinators with. So this here will be the main starting combinator, where it's reading all the items as each item and will output those items as long as those items are at least 36K, which is going to be its threshold universally applied to all the requester chests here. Indirectly. I'll explain why indirectly. These arithmetic combinators are pretty much saying these scrap times -1. This way these scrap will come out as a negative value. So basically, -1 times X amount of scrap to give a completely opposite number of scrap. This combinator is just being there to, it's just specifying everything that the original combinator is reading. This is here for delay reasons, because if you have two combinators out of sync by one delay, it will not properly read each other's signal. So this combinator is reaching to this decider combinator and the arithmetic combinator, so that way they can send their information to another arithmetic combinator at also a threshold setting. At the same time, this way this combinator is reading the positive input of scrap and the negative input and the subtracting input from the arithmetic combinators for scrap at the same time, nulling out the scrap count to be 0 of all quality. This way, that combinator will never output any scrap into the 3 selector combinators for the top, both item count of its index, into this memory latch that is timer controlled. Now this here is outputting a signal of 1. This way I'm not having like a big overflow issue, and that 1 is being multiplied by 100 with each condition with this arithmetic combinator. All the way to to these indirectly toggled. I mean, they're still on regardless. It's just that they're put on, the requester chests are just put on a set condition, circuit condition, set request mode based on the signals that they're receiving. I do wish that there was a check mark in there where I can simply tell it to read contents at the same time too as well. This way I don't have to do like a double chest system. That's one small change I would recommend for the requester chest. So this is pretty much working for the most part. My only complaint right now with this here is with the memory, with the latching memory cell with the decider combinator. It's working, it's just that as items get produced and consumed, their count is going to vary. And how the logistics system creates its index is based on, I'm going to say item name for now, and item quantity, where item quantity takes precedent over what I'm guessing is the item name. Which maybe it's alphabetically ordered. I don't know fully how Factorio sorts out its indexes or within its logistics storage network for easy reading, so don't quote me as credible to fully understand how Factorio works in that regard. All I know is that I know enough about the index system with how it shifts items around above or below the index list based on item count. What else it looks for, I don't know. But it's enough to prioritize all the high count items that winds up into 3 indexes that then gets stored within the output of the latch combinator. And this combinator will reset itself every 1800 ticks. If I remember right, that is 5 minutes. Let me review my calculator real quick. 18,000 divided by 60. That is 300 seconds divided by 60. Yes, 5 minutes. So basically, any recorded output from the 3 select. Oh, where's my mouse? From any of the selected combinators will get stored and reset it every 5 minutes. This way, all the logistic bots will have more than enough time to grab the resources and to put them in the requester chest, rather than having the requester chest rapid change their request conditions all the time, pretty much wasting logistic bot movement to achieve nothing. All the resources that I'm handling are pretty much fine. It's just the biggest resources that are a problem for me right now is iron gear and scrap. Iron gear is by far the most common item produced from scrap on Fulgora, so I'm producing it so much of that from scrap that I'm essentially unable to down its demand. If I'm able to, I'm going to eventually create a. Sorry about me booming into the mic again. I'm going to eventually be creating a sinking array fully dedicated to scrapping iron gears. I've already created a few arrays for that. It's just that I don't have enough logistic bots to support that. I'm afraid that Fulgora is going to wind up being another Gleba. I'll get to that eventually. Soon, and you'll see how crazy I am. Gleba. Anyhow, blueprints I alluded to earlier, these are also quality casino stuff, but they don't send things to a, they don't have a direct approach with recyclers like the original casino design I came up with. Instead, they're looking at the decider combinators And the conditions that the combinators read with whatever's in the passive provider chests will read how many items in there, and should the amount of items across these passive provider chests exceeds a certain amount, it will then pretty much lose its true condition. Like, should it get it'll be on as long as each resource of a specific threshold is less than that. And then you got the higher quality stuff that's looking at if the prior resources are at least a certain item threshold and not having enough of a certain resource. So that will scale up based on whatever resource it's producing. This is what I call like a climbing quality production system, and it's based on what these decider combinators say. This will output whatever item is being prioritized and dispersed across a bunch of decider combinators to set the recipes for the birds for any of the production structures. These decider combinators are there because I'm needing them to not read all the other signals. So I'm using these to isolate certain signals, so that way they don't have a bunch of signals overlapping a bunch of the assembly machines and making them try to produce other resources that are required to make those resources. Like, I don't need a bunch of these electromagnetic plants to be producing copper wires just to supplement one electromagnetic plant. Or copper plates or something like that to supplement one plant. This is especially a problem with circuits that requires iron and copper wire. I don't need one of those plants to be all, okay, one of us are needing copper wires and iron for this, so you go for copper wire, I'll go for that, instead of going circuits. Nope. These deciders prevent that with these casinos, these production structures. And what's nice about this is that, theoretically speaking, in one direction, they're infinitely expandable. So I can simply copy and paste these and expand them along if I really wanted to. And I pretty much made these kind of arrays of casinos for every single type of machine, for every single type of production machine. In this case, enough of each quality chests are being produced to the point where these chests are awaiting resources to produce the legendary versions of these chests. On average, I'm having a like 100 or 200 item limit across each production array. And I do believe those production arrays are also reading the logistic network too as well. So I'm unifying the power and logistics grid on my main bases. I've created a more efficient thinking system. All the excessive products from the casino arrays do have the resources being automatically sunk into these, or as long as they're producing more than 32,000 of those types of items to store. But I'm also using specialized syncing for certain resources, like modules and stuff, or other machines, so that way I'm not overproducing certain resources. And plus, it gives those resources a chance to be upcycled into higher quality materials. Some items are at a 500 item threshold with the logistic net, some items are at a 600. Mostly because I don't want them to be like reaching that limit and then all of a sudden being grabbed, sunken down, just to interrupt a crafting cycle of a higher quality material. And have to start over again, voiding more rarer quality materials. I'm still debugging the system here, but I'm taking a break from it for now due to other things. Plus, I've been way overdue to produce this episode. due to the technical difficulties I had to face. This is where I'm pretty much producing all the circuits and quality modules. And yes, they're adding climbing system too as well. I have researched legendary quality from Aquilo. So what I'm doing is that I'm having all of the legendary quality 2 modules go into quality 3 module production first to maximize their quality before legendary quality 3 modules. And then I'm prioritizing legendary quality 3 modules to produce higher quality 3 modules. Once all of the quality 3 production machines are that way, then I'll be exchanging that priority to the quality 2 modules and doing the same quality 2 module supply to be replaced with a legendary quality 3 module. And then I'll apply the same tactic with the quality 1 modules. Once I do that, then I'll do that for scrap. And once I do scrap, sinking system, and then all the other parts and then all the other production structures in general. This way I'm maximizing base resource quality production after I maximize the chances of getting higher quality parts. So that's my gist with Fulgora on that one right now. That's my long-term those are my multiple long-term strategies on Fulgora. Now what I've done to aid other planets and Aquilo. First thing I did, create a production array on another island being supplied through a train logistics system and outputting to the same train logistics system through different trains. A holmium production array. This way I'm able to convert all of my holmium into one specific item using normal quality stuff to be brought back to science areas of Fulgora, by science production area on Fulgora, to then get have its resources get distributed to all the other planets as needed. Similar deal with electrolytes, so I'm using electrolytes to supplement my Fulgora production here on this planet here. And this array here is dedicated to grabbing all the quality holmium to produce holmium that way. Even though I am using quality holmium and stone to produce holmium solution, there is no such thing as quality with fluids. So unfortunately, even with those materials, I'm stuck with producing normal quality holmium, having to be worked with quality. But the good news is, though, is that all that holmium is less than 36,000, which means I'm pretty much using all of my holmium ore. I'm basically consuming more of all quality of holmium ore than what I'm producing. So no holmium is being wasted right now, other than any of the plates that are exceeding a certain item threshold. And I'm also using that holmium to be able to produce superconductors en masse. Superconductor demand has increased drastically, especially with using quality 3 modules. Those require superconductor, as well as cryogenic plants. So I'm also having to export superconductors for full exclusive resources. This is pretty much where all the increased holmium and electrolytes being deposited into. Once I start really expanding on foundation production, I will then proceed to, well, I'll still be using the islands to create specific purposes and all that, but I will be using foundations to supplement any islands that are too tall for specific production arrays. This way I am able to maximize, pretty much maximize full potential of Factorio as much as possible. These islands look quite juicy, and this is a big one, so I can see myself stuffing a few big production arrays in these ones, or turning these into like a big scrapping array. Anyways, I'm scrolling away with possibilities here. I'm going to stop myself. Another thing I've done, and I've been redesigning blueprints for Gleba. Blueprint making with most of the machines most of the plants isn't bad. But if you're doing belt logistics with Gleba and trying to do like mass production using direct insertion and trying to manage spoilage at a modular fashion with these production arrays, it's a cognitive nightmare. I'll show you my most complicated production array for Gleba. And I can't even zoom in on this. This is for rocket fuel production on Gleba. And this theoretically should be able to produce 66.1 rocket fuel per second, but requires 306 nutrients per second going through. So I'm having to have multiple lines of nutrients for this. But it's so lengthy, and I have to have a means of being able to quickly filter out spoilage, so I'm having to use so much transport belts, splitters, and underground belts just to and a bunch of inserters and stuff to draw out any spoilage out of the structures I'm using direct insertion with. Certain resources that are being produced and stuff like that are not going to be at 100% capacity all the time, regardless how much you plant things, so these designs account for those factors with Factorio. And at the cost requires me to go overkill with logistics for spoilage management. And that's why, wait, is it down there? Did I put the tank at the wrong spot? Not quite. The tank is still there. I can just root down there. Anyways, I'm scrolling away again. Anyhow, that's actually the next patch over there that I wanted to safeguard with lightning rods. That should be the last lightning rod dead zone to worry about. This one I'm not losing any more just spots. I'll deal with that problem later. But yeah, that's the painful gist of designing blueprints for me with how I want to do Gleba. This is for bioflux, 119 bioflux per second, theoretically speaking. Our lubricant isn't bad. It still brain wraps me, but it's not bad. And this is for nutrients from bioflux. 716 nutrients per second. That's a very good throughput. However, that's like nutrients that don't spoil or don't get consumed within the array. I think that might be a miscalculation. I was tired and in a rush at the time, so I'll have to make some corrections with my maths on that. Yep. Oh. And here's for iron. I'm using bacteria to be supplying the foundries with the basic iron bacteria with spoilage and all being enough to supply all of the other means of bacteria production to make iron. And should any of these get backlogged, well, they'll consume enough iron to generate space for the iron bacteria again and then resupplement the system its own self. This is a array that requires a bit of a mild jump start from a jelly nut and other things with one little bacterial system. So, I do want to rework the biosulfur because I'm having some systems being cleverly fit in with splitters, but those splitters have no means of outputting spoilage. Actually, I might be making a big deal out of nothing. Inserters are able to grab from splitters, so I might be able to just use an output stack inserter to mitigate that problem. I'll have to revisit that approach with that specific blueprint, but that's a later problem. I'm already rebuilding Gleba with its blueprints. I got some issues to deal with, and plus two, my ghost blueprints keep on disappearing for every game loading. But yeah, these are the I gotta deal with that. These are the blueprints for Gleba that I'm going to be dealing with. The idea is that I'll be having a certain amount of nutrient productions, certain nutrient production structures go into a certain amount of machines, specific production arrays before going elsewhere. This way, by the time that those materials are being transferred far enough to spoil will then be going into nutrient productions that require spoilage to make it. Pretty much, I'll be going nutrients from spoilage to nutrients to bioflux to production structure, and then before going to the next production structure, nutrients from spoilage, nutrients from bioflux to the next production structure. That's going to be my order of blueprint placement for certain arrays here to manage spoilage. This way I'm not dealing with spoilage causing a cascading logistical stalling due to spoiling resources. Because if one set of resources stalls and can't send out any spoilage, it's going to jam up everything else and cause those items to spoil in unwanted places. And it's going to be a big nightmare to jumpstart back to proper operation again. So I'm having to plan these blueprints very carefully on Gleba. Because it takes one area producing too much spoilage to mess things up. My first production array closest to spoilage, though, will be for agricultural science, because those require pentapod eggs. I would much rather have pentapod eggs being managed in an area with the least amount of distance to travel. This way, should any pentapod eggs go back and forth somewhere, they won't be risking damaging the factory. I don't want to be investing heavily into defenses in the internal structures of Gleba. I'll probably be wanting to do that for agricultural science production and production of biochambers. Came to realize I've severely misunderstood the biochamber when I first visited Gleba. I always thought that those machines require electricity. No. They are powered through nutrients. I gave myself one hell of a slap on the forehead when I realized that. I've already cursed myself enough as assuming that those things have 50% productivity in the first place, but no, nutrients. That's the gist with those. So basically, their source of power is dependent on your method of logistics. But yeah, the reason why I'm doing this rehaul is because leave a number of how many logistic bots are present in this network. I'll give y'all a few seconds to pause the video to record that. I would like to know what y'all's guess is. Alrighty, I'll read one of the roboports. So, with no logistic bots still available, I am at 64,000 active logistic bots. I want to optimize the living daylights out of this planet so I can save about 10 to 15 UPS. Because with this here, I'm getting docked down to 50 UPS, and depending on how I'm zoomed in or out, I lose like 25% of the updates here. I need to optimize Gleba, and when I get foundations ramped up, I need to optimize Fulgora. Volcanus isn't bad. Like, yeah, Volcanus uses a large bot network, but it's not being heavily used to the extreme that the Fulgora and Gleba is. Like, this network probably has, like, yeah, 14,000. Fulgora currently has, like, 16,000 last time I checked. And even then, this bot network isn't being heavily used. Only, like, 5 to 6,000 logistic bots are being used out of the total bots. Most of these bots are being used. They're only getting used that much whenever they're grabbing all the sciences to put in a rocket for the science ships. I did make some changes on Volcanus. I was able to upgrade plastic throughput with this machine alone, since with the plastic production here alone with stack inserters. These stack inserters are great as long as you can consistently supply the maximum amount. I also added means of caching up basic circuits, advanced circuits. I mean, advanced circuits are still being cached up, but still. I basically pulled off my existing infrastructure for basic electronic circuits, but I've also created 2 arrays of foundries to produce molten iron and molten copper. And these are large ones, so these theoretically should be able to supply a lot of structure with molten iron and molten copper. I placed these down because I wanted to expand production on processor units, which I'm overproducing for what I'm demanding. This is a recent blueprint I've created for Volcanus. And each segment is tileable. Similar deal for advanced circuit production. I'm producing more advanced circuits and processor units than what I'm consuming across all the planets, so this is working just fine as intended. I did wind up having to for sake of convenient routing, claim another sulfuric acid field, as well as another coal patch for plastic making, since these machines at direct insertion have a plastic production array in it, have plastic production in it, so I need to supply coal and petroleum gas for that. Yeah, this is pretty much what I'm doing right now. I also did expand on LDS. However, this induced a copper shortage. That's why I felt the need to plop down these two these blueprints of these molten metal foundries in the first place. So that way these foundries can keep up. Power grid is keeping up, so that's a good thing. Volcanus, I will eventually want to overhaul. But for now, it's in excellent condition. Oh! So, my starter field, I may have divulged this in the last episode, but my starter field of calcite ran out, so I had to expand to another field of calcite, which is also now about to run out soon. About an hour ago, it was at like 60. Hey. Keep in mind, I'm at like productivity Think about it. Keep in mind, I have like a 79%, 790% productivity bonus, so these are practically producing 8 times the resources, so 53k at I have about 400,000 calcite left with that. So I wound up creating a station here to supply calcite across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these calcite fields. I believe these are like 31,000 resource yield before the reduced resource drain of the big mining drills. Plus 8 times the productivity. Let's see here. 31,000, 62,000. So I'll be able to get between 480 million to 500 million calcite out of a 31 million batch of calcite ore vein. This is going to sustain me for a while, and that's not accounting for any productivity bonuses that's going to be added on top of that 790% bonus anyways. I'm wanting to go all the way up to an 1,000% productivity bonus at some point. That's pretty much my goal, because I never achieved such a number in Factorio, so why not let myself get overly ambitious at that regard? Just to be able to do it. I got plenty of calcite all over the place too as well. That's not a bad quantity. But yep, that's pretty much Volcanus. Novice being same old. I've, with it just reaping benefits from rocket part productivity. But I did add a specific structure for LDS, since I wasn't getting enough LDS from being locally produced. And I have high enough productivity for that I don't have to worry about running out of resources. And all the trawlers are supplying all the iron, steel, and copper necessary from the travel, so I'm not having to demand as much resources on Novice anymore. I might as well say that Novice is mostly being supported by space now, where infinite resources are possible. I did expand a little bit on oil infrastructure on Novice 2 as well as adding additional rocket fuel production. Glad to see the Fulgora heavy oil tankers working well again. So Fulgora is pretty much supporting the oil for Novice, as well as other planets that may need it, but mostly for Novice. And I got enough of these oil refineries to deal with the supply of oil here, and I'm hardly using oil for novice. So this is an overproduction potential that will last me a while, especially with how much rocket fuel I'm producing. So novice is a bit bottlenecked by its own throughput, but it's able to keep up with doing what it needs to do to keep all the ships alive. Speaking of which, I finally ran out of my first batch of uranium. I never ran out of uranium in Factorio before. So that's a first for the Space Age playthrough. Now it's just eating away on the second batch, which is somewhat eaten up. I do want to place down some big binders here to double its lifespan. I did have to upgrade a bunch of components to my nuclear reactor, so it should be about 7 gigawatts, 7.6 gigawatts of power. I had to do this because this reactor literally started blacking out, literally started losing power. I had to isolate the pumps using a solar grid system, so that way I don't have to worry about a burnout causing everything to stop working. That's part of the reason why my issues on Novice took so long to resolve, because of the need to isolate power grids. That's a future lesson that I'm going to strongly apply when I do my nuclear reactor builds. Especially if they're heavily dependent on having fluids being routed around by pumps. This space definitely is on a high priority to be redone to where I want to be able to convert it into a fully research and logistics hub. For space and all. But I'm feeling it again to put that in the afterburners because I need to optimize my game so that way I'm able to run at better performance. Looks like once I've gotten the basics of the fruits being reaped from Aquilo at fullest potential, fullest starting potential, I should say. Looks like I'll be wanting to make a return to Gleba. I was expecting my return to be back in Novice, but I need to optimize Gleba first. This way I can shave off a lot of logistic bots. This array here, these production rays here that I'm slapping down, they there is no logistic bot capabilities. They have no means of having items being inputted or removed from logistic chests, from logistic network whatsoever. So all the items are going to be solely supplied by Belt Logistics. Which means that I can probably shave off 40 to 55,000 logistic bots off of Gleba. That should relieve a lot of my TPS issues. Then I'll go back to Novice, redo that plant to where it's more optimized for the logistic bot system there to handle items from space, and to be a better logistics network hub, as well as supplying uranium tech. Nuclear tech, I should say. I'll have to do that carefully, considering that that planet is literally a keystone for my whole space age operations for how it take care of the ships with the supplies it needs. And then, if Aquilo's good enough for that, heavily supply all the stone from Volcanus to Aquilo and go big with the foundation so I can optimize Fulgora. Plus, too, I like to be able to have a means of being able to easily manage iron gears. So with pretty much all the planet stuff researched now and I need to do a bunch of updates and optimizations, I pretty much have a lot on my plate to do on Factorio now. Now I know this episode is already an hour 15, so it's a bit past my intended goal, but there's a lot going through my head right now on how to go about these sort of things, so my to-do list it's big now. But you know something? That's the glorious way of how Factorio keeps you busy. One set of tasks requiring a bunch of other things to be done with the tasks. What's their evolution factor? 0.99! That's as bad as evolution's going to get with Gleba, considering that the evolution factors do have a diminishing return. For every percentage. But yeah. Thank God for artillery. Thank God for Tesla turrets too. Anyhow. If there's any feedback or anything like that y'all feel the need to give in regards to this video, please do, especially considering that this is my first video off of a new computer that I just built that is, it's not the most powerful, but it's definitely very above average. So if I'm like too loud or something like that, or the video quality's bad, not to your liking, or doesn't fit your devices quite right or anything like that, please let me know and I'll do what I can to mitigate the inconveniences that y'all may be doing with these recent changes I'm doing. So, and for those of y'all who stuck around this long with the Space Age series, appreciate y'all's presence with this. It's definitely been a slow journey. Especially for me, just taking my time to tinker around with the possibilities that Space Age has to offer. Especially considering that most people are quick with planning these sort of things, and me who likes to tinker around and who isn't quick to make things work. Anyways, y'all. The next episode that I'm producing will probably be on GTNH. One, I want to see if I'm able to do the recordings at the current resolution, because I'm doing this at almost at Ultra HD, ultra high definition. Not quite, since the monitors I'm using are at a different ratio, but aspect ratio, but still different. Anyhow, I'll probably see y'all on the next episode on GTNH, and wish y'all well. Be safe and take care.